Right then, last night DICE released a huge blog post responding to the recent launch of Battlefield 2042, and in that blog we got a huge amount of detail regarding the 2 upcoming patches for this game, an acceptance that there are several legacy features that are missing from the game, and a commitment from the development team that they will be supporting Battlefield 2042 for years to come. We're going to work through all of the details in this video. It will be a long one, so be prepared. But by the end, you'll know exactly when you can expect Battlefield 2042 to start feeling like a more complete, functional game. And today's video is sponsored by Alienware and their Black Friday discounts in partnership with Currys. Whether you're looking to upgrade your gaming desktop or your gaming laptop, there's a deal here for you. The Aurora R12 is a powerhouse designed for high-performance gaming, featuring Intel's 11th Gen core processors, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3000 series graphics cards, and plenty of RAM to keep your games running smooth at high frame rates. And then their M15 R6 gaming laptop is the perfect upgrade if you're a more on-the-go gamer or if you're just short on space. Fitted with NVIDIA G-Sync displays with options up to 360Hz refresh rate combined with the latest NVIDIA GeForce laptop graphics cards and a solid sturdy design, the M15 R6 is the perfect portable gaming companion. For all of the details on Alienware's Black Friday discounts with Currys, then click the link at the top of the description right now and go and check them out. A big thanks to Alienware for sponsoring today. Let's get started. Firstly, this statement from DICE regarding the launch and the acceptance that there are plenty of missing features here. The blog states that the team is carefully evaluating the desire to see legacy features return. This includes an end-of-round scoreboard, server browser function for all-out warfare, and features like voice chat. Apparently, they've got plenty that they want to say, but since these things are currently being worked on, they will be left to showcase for another day when they're in a state that the team can detail their long-term vision for the functions. So it's good to hear that these features are being worked on. It's less good to hear that they are now being worked on after considerable feedback from players at launch, and that these features weren't ever considered to be high priority enough for the launch of a Battlefield game. I mean, for me, voice chat not being there in a Battlefield game at launch, Battlefield is all about team play and squad play, so the fact that that wasn't there for launch, big miscalculation. Better late than never, but still, hopefully the DICE team learns from this situation. And then a word here on PC performance. I'm just going to read you out what DICE has written because it seems as if this isn't going to be a very quick fix. This may take a few patches, it might take a little while for PC performance to improve. For all of you playing on PCs, we want to acknowledge that many of you are finding that performance of the game is presently CPU bound, and not enough of you who are fortunate enough to enjoy high-end GPUs and CPUs are seeing the benefit of consistent high frame rates. Identifying engine-level optimizations and developing solutions will require a lengthier response from us so that it gets done right. Short term, we'll be doing all we can to offer performance improvements that reduce the load and up your frame rates where possible. We'll keep you updated on our work through our Battlefield channels. Essentially, they're saying there, if you've not got the best PC in the world, performance isn't going to be great. But what I can tell you is that my PC is very close to being the best that you can make currently out on the market. I've got an 11900K CPU overclocked to 5.4 GHz. I've got 32 GB of overclocked RAM and an RTX 3090 graphics card. And even I'm not able to get consistently high frame rates, and many other people are reporting the same. So it doesn't really matter what kind of PC setup you've got at the moment, performance isn't great. And it seems as if, for the time being, it's going to stay that way. It's going to take a little bit of time before performance improves. Next, the 2 upcoming patches. The first is called Update 2, and that's launching on Thursday, November 25th. So if you're watching this video the day it's uploaded, that's tomorrow. Update 3, which is a more substantial update overall, that's landing in early December. And another patch is also planned just before the holidays as well. So actually, there's 3 updates in total coming to Battlefield 2042 before the end of the year. Each of those has a bunch of fixes, changes, and in some cases, new additions to the game. So let's work through each so you know what to expect when each of them arrives. Starting with Update 2 that's coming on Thursday, this one isn't massive, but it does address some of the more frustrating issues with the game right now. A fix for improving overall revive experience that's being deployed, so this is going to fix the inability to revive friendly players when they're too close to an object or a wall. I'm sure you've run into that multiple times playing already. And then there will be a new spawn protection system deployed that will prevent any issues that can leave a player stuck in the revive state for too long. So this is the fix for when the timer is stuck at 0, you can't be revived, and you can't redeploy through the menu. The game is going to force a manual respawn onto you after a set short period. So it actually sounds like a temporary fix because they're not fixing the problem that gets you stuck in the revive state with the 0 on the timer, but it's just going to force you to respawn. So there may be a larger problem here, but at least the game is going to get you out of that revive state so you can spawn back in. It's a good step forward, but it doesn't sound like a complete fix to the problem. The UAV-1 item in Battlefield Portal, that one that you can pilot on the Bad Company 2 maps, that's been rebalanced and it will be re-enabled with this update. And then there's vehicle balancing. The hovercraft and the Nightbird chopper, they are both being tweaked in this update. The hovercraft is having its health decreased, making it easier to destroy and sit more in line with being a transport vehicle rather than just an armoured machine. And also the weaponry is being tweaked so it's not insanely powerful with a full squad inside. And then the Nightbird, that's having its 20mm cannon splash damage nerfed. It was causing excessive damage against all targets, and that wasn't intended. And then there's the big weapon fix, or at least the start of it anyway. DICE will be applying a global fix for all weapons apart from shotguns that's going to reduce dispersion, that's what you might have heard called bullet spread or bloom, into the game. This, DICE hopes, will result in a more consistent bullet spread during gunfights. And then more specifically, the spread is being reduced when in ADS and moving and shooting at the same time. Stationary ADS accuracy has also been buffed for many of the weapons in the game. Spread now decreases faster and earlier when you pace your shots, meaning if you tap fire or you burst fire, the spread will decrease quickly. And then specifically for the PP29 SMG, vertical recoil is being increased so the weapon doesn't outperform its intended engagement range. And there will be more fixes coming in Update 3 for a bunch of other weapons, and that's where the weapon balance is going to take place. This is a pretty solid list for Update 2, coming just a week after launch. I personally feel as though the revive bugs could have been picked up sooner, before the launch. They are quite obvious problems, and they happen quite a lot, so I'm unsure how this wasn't picked up during proper testing of the game. But nevertheless, these are good fixes, and ones that are needed for the game to function as it was intended. Right, now let's get into Update 3. We're going into the weeds here. There's a lot to talk about. Remember, this is the one set to arrive during early December. We're really not that far away from that, but I would expect this in maybe 2 to 3 weeks' time. This update is much larger, so get ready. The collections menu, the one where you pick and choose what attachments you want on the plus menu, and when you're deciding the starting loadout for your weapons, that is being made easier to use and clear as to what you're interacting with. Improvements have been made to the way in which you are able to manage your attachments via the collection screen to reduce the number of interactions or clicks that you need to make to be able to manage your attachments. So that just means less clicking overall and dropping in and out of categories to change attachments. That's awesome. There are too many clicks in that menu at the moment, so it's good that DICE heard that feedback. Matchmaking reliability will be improved, and you should see less instances of matchmaking failed popping up in the top right-hand corner. Servers should also stop sitting in unresponsive states, such as when you fail to start a round properly. DICE is going to be introducing weekly missions into the game, providing set challenges that will reward cosmetic unlocks, presumably for the specialists, the weapons, and the vehicles in the game, as well as items for your player card, hopefully. That would be really nice. Always nice to have more progression in the game, so some weekly missions. I'll take those. When it comes to graphical fixes, a bunch of flickering and stuttering has been addressed, improvements around water reflections have been made, and improvements to artifacts affecting the DLSS implementation for PC players are in this patch as well. With regards to maps, DICE will be implementing over 150 individual fixes and small changes across all of the maps in the game. Improvements to geometry to stop players getting snagged or trapped on small objects is in there as well, and multiple poor spawns have been addressed, and a large number of collision and placement issues have also been fixed. Then there's some new additions to Battlefield Portal, and we all know how popular that is at the moment. So you'll be pleased to know that the Rush game mode layout is being added as an option to all Battlefield 2042 maps through Portal. So you'll be able to play the Rush game mode on 7 more maps, which is awesome. And this is something that people asked for just before the launch when they realized that Rush wasn't available on the 2042 maps. So to have this appear just a few weeks later is a great turnaround. New templates for Vehicle Team Deathmatch, Team Gunmaster, and Free-for-all Gunmaster are being added to Portal for quick creation of these game modes. Once again, I think this comes from the community, making these things for themselves. A new Infection template is being added, and an additional feature to the rules editor, the ability to detect when a player has been killed so that you can apply further logic on that action. Then for the Breakthrough game mode, capture times of the flags, they've been retuned. Out of bounds defender spawns have been fixed, so you should always spawn within the play space. The UI for the mode has been improved so that you can better track round progress in the form of a game mode widget. That widget is also visible inside the scoreboard, and there's emphasis being put on sectors and the attacker's reinforcements. And then also, a pulsating effect has been added to the attacking team's score and progress bar when tickets are less than 25% of the initial amount, just to sort of let you know that you're running out of reinforcements. Then there's a bunch of fixes being applied to those round beginning insertion sequences so that they flow better and they don't show visual glitches. I would really hope that DICE was going to implement some kind of feature that stopped that insertion flow happening if I hadn't agreed to actually lock in a spawn point, or if I'm in the menu. I would like it that I'm not pulled out of the menu and shoved into a match when I was trying to make changes. It's a feature that Battlefield 4 had. I think it was called Ready Up. If you didn't ready up, the game wouldn't spawn you in, and I'd really like it, and I think a lot of other people would like it if that came back with 2042. The in-game HUD is getting a bunch of quality of life improvements here. A list will now show in the revive screen that shows people who can revive you within 50 meters, so you know that there's like a medic nearby. An incoming reviver list will also show once a player pings you for a revive, signaling that they're going to come over and help you. This is the exact feature from Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 that people have been asking for, and it's great to see that it's coming back in 2042. When you're low on ammo or health, nearby friendly players within 50 meters will now show a resource icon above their head, indicating that they can give you what you need. This doesn't specify whether you can go up to that player and take health off of them or take ammo off of them, as you could in Battlefield 5, or whether you have to do a little song and dance around that player, asking them to drop the ammo pack or the med pack that they're holding, but at least you know which player to go to. Maybe we need some clarification on that point. Health bars for enemy players and vehicles will now display when you look at them. All player world icons, things like capture flag icons, they will scale over distance, making them smaller when you're further away from them to reduce screen clutter. That's a great feature, and that was in Battlefield 5 at launch, I believe. What isn't included in this point here is anything to do with the opacity, and I would love options in the menu to be able to scale the opacity of certain icons so that I can remove them from my screen, because still, the amount of time I'm aiming down sights and there's a flag icon in front of me and there's an enemy behind it and I can't see the enemy properly. Quite frustrating. So some opacity options in the future, DICE, those would be really welcome. Then the fire mode icon has been added by default to the ammo widget counter at the bottom, but it is possible to change it back if you don't want it there. And it will only show as well if the model of gun that you're holding actually supports changing the firing type. This was a big bit of feedback from the beta and from launch, so it's good to see that is finally making it into the game. And then a UI message will now display when you're getting healed to tell you that a friendly player did that for you, and it will list their name. And the same goes for ammo being supplied as well. Then we've got game audio. The ability sound reliability has been improved for those things happening off screen. So to explain, this includes lots of different sounds like the ballistic shield for Dozer taking hits, flares being popped, smoke vehicle discharges, wingsuit deployments, and system repairs. Essentially, when you're not looking at those items on your screen, the game wasn't reliably playing those audio functions when it was happening around you. So maybe Dozer's shield behind you was taking hits from an enemy player, it wasn't audibly playing the sound of the bullets reflecting off of his shield. Or maybe there's an enemy Sundance that's gone round behind you and then dropped down on the ground. The wingsuit undeploy noise wasn't playing properly because you weren't looking at them, and then you get shot in the back by a Sundance. So it seems that the reliability of some of those sounds that are happening off the screen when you're not looking at them is being improved, and it will give you the audio cue for things happening around you, so you can be aware of what's happening. That sounds like a really good improvement. It's not something that you're going to immediately notice, but I'm sure during gameplay, you'll start reacting to things going on that you're not looking at because you heard something. The lock-on warning sound has been switched with the incoming missile sound. The weapon audio mix has been improved for when enemies are firing at you, and presumably that means that it's now louder, so you can hear that gun. And the general content and mix for distant weapon firing sounds has been tweaked to improve audibility at range. And then there's a bunch of specialist gadget fixes here as well. I'm just going to bring you the highlights because there are so many of them, and some are much more important than others, I think. Sundance's anti-armor grenade has now been fixed, so it doesn't try and lock onto a second vehicle after it's been flared off of another one. That was kind of annoying for the vehicles. Kind of cool if you were Sundance, because you were pretty much always guaranteed to get a hit, but still, definitely a bug. And their splitter frag grenades will now bounce once before they detonate, and that gives enemies a chance to escape. Then Angel's loadout crate now supports more than 4 loadout options, so you can scroll to view more of them and then interact with it. And when you're handing out armor plates, players will now appear with a white outline to show the plate of who it will magnetize to. Irish's shield will now place on more angled surfaces. This was a real complaint of mine. I was playing with Irish for the first maybe 4 or 5 days after launch, and the amount of places I could not put down his shield where I should have been able to was quite frustrating, so good that that's been fixed. Rao's hack will now have a short grace period when a target ends up being occluded by cover towards the end of the hack. So let's say a heli flies through a bunch of trees and you're very close to the end of hacking that heli. You'll now have a short window once they've gone into cover to finish the hack, even if they are still covered. And then Pike's scanner is now going to give the victims, so the people that it scans, a short sound effect when they're hit with the pulse to let them know that the Pike is nearby. And there's also a bunch of like gadget changes in the blog as well, but I would literally be here for hours, so I'll just sort of pick out the highlights. This isn't a gadget, but the NTW-50 sniper rifle, that thing is really powerful against vehicles. DICE is nerfing its ability to damage vehicles, but it will still do damage, so it'll obviously still be quite a viable weapon for someone who wants to play with a sniper. And then the fix for the M5 recoilless SOFLAM bug that kept things locking on despite a vehicle deploying countermeasures, that's been fixed. Oh, and if you manage to get a vehicle stuck somewhere and you can't move it, the feature of being able to melee bump them out of that position is coming back to Battlefield 2042. This is a classic Battlefield feature. It's mentally weird that you can just melee a hovercraft out of a hole or melee, I don't know, a tank out of getting stuck in like a corridor. It's weird that you can do that, but it's great that it's coming back because it will help people survive for longer in vehicles. So, loads of changes coming in Update 2 and Update 3, and of course there's that holiday patch as well, so there will be even more stuff coming in the future. But again, let me reiterate here, the fact that Battlefield 2042 needs 3 patches before Christmas is a sign that the game needed more time in the oven. A lot of these issues could and probably should have been identified before the launch of the game, and maybe they were, but launch was pushed out anyway. But the fact that DICE has compiled this list of fixes and changes and is going to deploy them in a super tight turnaround after launch, that's not something we're really used to after Battlefield launches. Usually, we're kind of just waiting around for a couple of months for everything to be fixed. To have a clear roadmap from DICE after just a couple of weeks, I'd say that's a pretty good sign, despite a pretty poor launch. But thanks very much for watching, drop a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.